Hello, I'm Luke Ryan. I'm an Irish guy who has been living in Prague since 2010.
And I'm absolutely sure we're not spreading disinformation with this one.
It's usually me raging about something. You're from Ireland, why would you come here? You can earn more money in Ireland. I was like, yeah, but I can buy more beers an hour here than I ever could in Ireland.
It took an hour to set up the fucking camera. We're not even sure if this will be recorded or not.
It will. We have a halo of an angel over us, I think.
And as you can see, yeah.
It'll be all right.
It will be all right.
It's great. Thanks for having me. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I know the quiz nights you used to do.
Yeah.
I don't know the stand-up, but we have a common friend, Jose. So, yeah,
Well, I started doing stand-up in 2004 in Dublin because my friend wanted to do it and he was going to sign up for these workshops. And so I, a little bit drunk, said, do you know what the hell, I will. And the next day we said, do we still want to do this? And we're like, you know what, let's do it. And I've been a huge comedy fan since I was, 9 or 10. Just watching like comedy shows, especially from the BBC.
Okay.
And I love humor. I love the communicative tool of humor. Or defusing situations, or as a teacher. I mean, for all the teacher training I've done, the best thing I have for teaching kids is being a comedian. You know, if you can make them laugh, they'll follow you to hell. You know, they'll do whatever you say. So I did comedy in Ireland for many years, and when I came here in 2010, there was virtually no English language comedy, and then it kind of dried up what was there, and I was missing it because I can't, when I was especially teaching back then, teaching adults, I couldn't afford therapy. So I decided to start Comedy Prague in 2013, did our first workshop, started doing a monthly show, cobbling together a few comedians here and there. Wasn't very good, and you couldn't do the same material again and again because we were getting like 40-50% of the same audience. So you're trying to write 15 minutes for every month, whereas nowadays there's so many more comedy nights and the opportunity to travel in Europe, you can use the same material for months, and that's what you need to do because every time you do it, it gets better and better. And
Seinfeld says never cut the old material out. I mean, yeah.
No, but the thing is though, Seinfeld? You go to see your favorite band and you want to hear the classic songs. You don't want to hear the new album, but people go to see a comedian. They don't want to hear the classic jokes. They want to hear all the new stuff, and it is demanding. It really is. But it's great now that you can use material more and work on it. And I think with Netflix, actually, people are more used now to rewatching comedy. And they're more used to hearing some of the same jokes. So if you go to a night in Prague now, you might see some comedian doing the material that they've done before. But, there'll be a different lineup. So you'll always find something new. Personally, I love hearing some of the same jokes again. And I maybe not even so much listening to the setup. I'm watching the audience because I want to see, as the punchline breaks, I just want to see all their faces changing. That moment of realization for a particularly good joke. And just that kind of thing is like when, it's something about life that they have known all their life, but they've never realized. And it just breaks across the crowd and it's coming and just the anticipation of them when they realize the joke. It's fantastic. It really is.
Yeah. What's your favorite comic? I mean, I guess throughout the years, since if you've started being interested in this since you were 9, I mean, throughout the years, you probably had a different, tops and charts and blah, blah, but did anybody stuck through all this time?
Well, it's kind of I'm kind of different to a lot of comedians, as in I watch very little comedy online or on TV now or stand-up, because I'm afraid of being influenced if I talk about something that someone else does. I don't want the exposure to that. But there's 3 Irish comedians who I always say to people as, you know, my influences. There's Dylan Moran for the abstract and absurdity, because I like being a bit absurd and abstract. There's Tommy Tiernan for the kind of ranting, raging storytelling, and then there's Dara Breen for the storytelling and for the interaction with the crowd. So I watch those 3 guys a lot, and I rewatch the same stuff and look for nuances and how they structure it and stuff like that. And because I like storytelling, I've tried doing the like very short joke formats, you know, which is lower energy for me, and I can't do it. You know, I mean, to be honest, my material doesn't often have that many punchlines. It's usually me raging about something, you know, about either going to IKEA, being on Tinder, you know, living with a new girlfriend or getting dumped by a girlfriend. It's all of this stuff and just the annoyance I find in it, or about life in the Czech Republic, which is very, as I'm sure you know, it's very, very funny here. There's a lot of interesting things to laugh at about life in this country.
What are some of the jokes you say about Czech Republic? What are the stereotypes? Oh, you know, like.
Well, I talk about the language and about how impossible it is to learn the language, and like how all the endings change, and then there's no logical connection between the masculine, the feminine, and neutrum for all these 7 different cases that they have, and then the plurals have different endings, and then the adjectives have different. It's like, what the hell? Who came up with this? Like, you have so many different you have so many different plural endings for masculine, feminine, and neutrum. You know, in English, generally, you put an S at the end. I think we can all manage putting an S at the end. So why do we have to have all this? And I've asked Czech speakers, you know, like you say, like, Toya kava, it's a coffee. Mam kavu, I have a coffee. Jedeme do kavi, we're going to the coffee. It's like, it doesn't, and the endings, they make no difference. They make no difference whatsoever for most of these things. I was like, why? And the thing is, as well, you go into like some shops and you might say, instead of saying yasidam kavu, which is I will have a coffee, yasidam kava. So I was like, come on, it's not that different. It's 1 letter different, you know. And it's just frustrating.
I stopped caring about this, and I'm just like letting it out, and somehow Czech flows out of me, of course, in a very ungrammatical way. But I get myself understood because most of the Czech speakers I speak with are Ukrainian, you know. But seriously, I mean, what I found as a cultural shock, what I found when I moved here, you know, I was trying to speak it, and they were kind of correcting it. At one point before, I thought it was aggressive, but it's not. It's they're like kind of they are like. I feel they are a little bit like the Germans. There's no softness in Czech Republic, kind of.
I know what you mean, yeah.
But they seem harsh when they correct my Czech. When they were correcting my Czech, I think it was for the good, for positive. But
well, I find that as an English teacher sometimes, like, I mean, obviously in work I have to do correcting, but like if I'm in a shop and they make a mistake with a verb tense or something, and I was like, do I use the correct form, which I would naturally use in reply, or do I actually use the mistake so they don't feel bad about making the mistake because I appreciate that they're speaking English? And I was like, and I find myself sometimes making English language is like, yes, yesterday I go there, instead of saying I went there, just so they don't, because if I say I went there, they're like, oh, sorry, I meant went. It's like, it's okay, make the mistakes. It's the language is tough. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I just get to the end of a word and just go, and add some sound and hope it sounds close enough to whatever the ending is. I've heard Babiš does that.
Really?
Yeah, there's I was shown like some Czech comedian, and he does an impersonation of Babiš, and he deliberately just got all the different endings, because apparently Babiš is the president of the Czech, or prime minister of the Czech Republic, but he's actually Slovak.
Yeah.
And although
former secret agent for Slovakian secret intelligence service.
I heard you.
And just 1 second, we usually say We usually say, fuck you, Babish.
Yes,
We
fuck you,
usually
Babish.
say this in 19 to the dozen. It's a good moment to subscribe to the Inquisition and to 19 to the dozen if you've just landed here for
Do
the
it.
fuck you, Babish. Yeah, let's go.
Actually, cause I heard that on the podcast you did with Jose, that you were saying that he was a former Secret Service. It was like, wasn't very secret. Everyone seems to know about it.
Yeah. We're just employed there.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure about the story. And I'm absolutely sure we're not spreading disinformation with this one.
No.
So, yeah.
But like, there's a lot, like, there's things as well. Like, I talk about, you know, how like from April until October every year, all year, April till October, all Czech people at the weekend go to their cottages, you know, and we do a show called Checkmates. So do check, if you have a look at Comedy Prague to see the Checkmates show, which I actually reveal the ultimate conspiracy of this country. You have to come to the show to see it, but based around all the different habits of the Czechs and why they do what they do and what's the real reason they actually go to these cottages, because they say they're fixing them, but I've never seen them fixing one. So it is the ultimate conspiracy, you know, or that like all Czech people drive silver Skoda Octavias. You know, I mean, they don't, but there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And just little things. And again, from listening to the podcast with Jose, he was absolutely right. Czechs have a black sense of humor. They have a dark sense of humor, and they're very good at laughing at themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they like having these things pointed out. I think they kind of enjoy the weird and wonderfulness of the country. You know, and of course, like from the show as well, we're not insulting the country. You know, it's all people who live here as expats or immigrants who love the country. You know,
that's why we're here. We love the city and the country. Yeah,
because you get that a lot as well. Like Czech people, it's like, why are you here?
And again, like correcting my grammar. Did you feel at the beginning like an aggressive question? Why are you here? And then as I repeated the answer why I'm here, I just saw that it's actually just a kind of a hello, like kind of, you know.
But some of them are like, you know, you're from Ireland. Why would you come here? You can earn more money in Ireland. I was like, yeah, but I can buy more beers an hour here than I ever could in Ireland. You know, the public transport is better. The weather is better. The bars open later, which has been dangerous. There's a lot of great things in this country. And I'm almost like, you know, sometimes I think Czechs maybe don't realize it. In the same way that I'm sure there are Czech people living in Ireland who are saying this country is amazing, and Irish people are like, no, it's not, it's rubbish, it's shite. You know, and I think sometimes you got to step away from your country to appreciate it. And I think when you go somewhere else as an adult, you appreciate it more.
Absolutely.
Having grown up there.
Absolutely. And what I love about European Union is this possibility of each person, in each citizen in each member state to just, you know, have experience. I mean, this was not going on back when I was, 20 and I started to travel, you know. As a Romanian, we've only been in the European Union, I think 2007 or 8. Yeah. So I started traveling in Europe in 2000. It was horrible. You needed to actually show cash money at the border so they would know that you can afford like a week or whatever you're saying and stuff like that. And now it's such a nice place because the whole European thing is such a nice place because you can, you know, be a kid at 20, move to Berlin and experience Berlin for 2 years, then move to somewhere else and experience, Amsterdam and so on. So, and all this traveling and mixing with the people and sharing ideas and even food, you know, and stuff like that. It brings you more, I don't know what.
But I mean, firstly, I would hope that it would make people realize that people from other countries are fine and normal. And maybe they have their little differences and that's a good thing. That's why you go. You know, it might actually, I hope it will open people's minds that the world is there for everyone to enjoy. I mean, it's beyond belief that Britain would want to leave that. It's just crazy. I mean, I remember I was living in Poland in 2006-07. So they were in the EU, but it was before Schengen.
Yeah.
And my ex-girlfriend, she was from a city 6 kilometers from the Czech border.
Okay.
Few times we actually cycled from Poland over into the Czech Republic to this little village to have lunch and a couple of beers and then cycle back. And you actually cycle up to a border crossing and she shows her Polish passport, she's fine. And I'm there on a bike at this little border crossing between Poland and the Czech Republic with an Irish passport. And they're like, look in the passport, look at me, passport me. For like 10 minutes, it's like, why are you flying across the border on a bicycle and you're from, I was like, and eventually they let you go. I was like, it's quite incredible. And now, I mean, it's great now, you don't have any of that stuff, you just drive across. I mean, you kind of know that you get into Germany because the roads get better, you know, you get into Slovakia because the roads get worse, you know, and other than that, you know, there's a sign and that's about it.
Yeah.
And you're straight through. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and yeah, it's this, like, I love it. I love Prague because of the different cultures. Even in the metro, I mean, you hear all the languages of the universe here, of the universe, because there's aliens in Prague. But yeah, and this gives so much value and diversity, and it makes it such a lively place, no?
Yeah. And I mean, like, I have some great friends in Ireland who I miss very much, but most of my friends in Ireland are Irish. Most of my friends here are from all different nationalities, and it's amazing. And in Ireland, if you drive 4 hours in any direction, you're in the sea. You know, you have to fly to get away. Here, 4 hours any direction, you're in 4 different countries. It's like Dresden, Berlin, Munich, Vienna. It's so good. You can just hop in the car. Transport is a lot cheaper here. Public transport, you know, overnight trains. It's amazing. It's you know, I think, I know there are different parts of the world which have very different conditions. Unfortunately, the world isn't like that, and I know it's a very idealistic view, but it's a very good thing, you know, compared to what Europe was like 100 years ago.
Definitely, yeah. Do you, the Prague is open, bars are open, everything is going on more or less like normal. Tourism is back for a month and a half. So you guys started the shows, the stand-up shows as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel there's a difference in the audience before the lockdown and now?
Well, I did 2 gigs last week where I was having a go at anti-vaxxers and telling them they're being selfish and, you know, expecting us to do the work. And it was like, apart from 1 or 2 in the audience who said they weren't going to get vaccinated, everyone else had been. There was great togetherness. I think people are happy to be out. And I know we were talking earlier, you can see it out in the streets as well. And maybe not with so many tourists around the centre of Prague. You've a lot more locals or people living here. I don't know, it feels like Prague is enjoying itself being Prague and the people in it. I think this has been a nice summer in Prague. It's been a really nice summer in Prague.
It's not over yet. There's yeah.
I can't remember now, 3 weeks to go until I go back to school, so 3 weeks of summer,
Summer. Is it, I think it's anybody's dream to actually, I guess, be a teacher because of the huge holidays you get year by year, no?
Yeah, I mean, every now and again, like, you know, maybe it's in February or the end of January when you're writing reports and it's cold and you're like, oh. And, you know, I'll get that email that I get once a week from LinkedIn with like jobs we've chosen for you. And I was like, I fucking hate this job, you know, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. And I click into the job and then I go down and it says like 25 holiday days a year. It's like, nope, going to stay being a teacher, staying being a teacher. I mean, it adds up to 3 months holiday a year.
But also because I have the experience of being a trainer, which is teacher for adults in a way, right? To me, it's an energy sucker. I sometimes after like a second, let's say, consecutive day of 6 hours of delivery, I really feel like an empty sponge, like I've been drained completely. Does that happen when you teach kids as well?
It does, and I generally now when I get home from work, I will sit on the sofa and I'm gone, and I'll sleep maybe for 20-30 minutes, but I have to. It really does drain you because it's effectively a performance. You know, everyone is watching you. You have to be in control of what you say and do. You are totally switched on. Like, I mean, when I worked in an office in Ireland, you work for 20 minutes, you check the news for a minute, you look at your phone, you've little breaks here and there. Yeah. You teach a 90-minute class or you train people all day, you are working 100% during that time. There's no switching off for a little break here or there. You are totally focused and you have to be in the zone. Although, you know, there's no sneaking away from it. You know, you can't... it is draining. And a lot of
Stand
jobs
up is
don't.
the same.
Yeah, but and a lot of jobs don't have that. A lot of jobs have the possibility just to like have a 20-second downtime every 20 minutes. Can't do that with like teaching, training, anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's a lot of fun, but it is demanding.
Let's go to Comedy Prague. So you created in a way the scene, right? You started doing this, and eventually it grew. And is Checkmates a spin-off, or
Checkmates.
because there's like at least 3, 4, 5 clubs or groups that do stand-up in Prague in English now, which is an amazing thing from 2013 when it was just one place with one show per month.
Yeah, there's like Christina who does Velvet, and she's doing a lot of shows now, which is great. She's a very good promoter in a way that I hated promoting.
Hello, Christina, second time.
And Jose was doing Desperate Comedians, and now he does work with us. And there's Underground, which mainly do shows in Czech and occasional shows in English. And it is good to have that. And I think even just having different identities means that if people keep seeing the same name all the time, they'll think, oh, well, I've seen that. You know, it's good to have different identities in different venues, and you do attract different types of people. You know, certain people will only go to certain bars, so if you perform at that bar, they'll see you. If you don't, they won't. The Checkmate show is a single entity show where every performance is the same. And we're all
the same lineup, or even the same jokes, the same bits.
The same bits and mostly the same lineup. Like Jose's in it, but he won't be. We're doing a show next week, but Jose won't be here because he's back in Mexico at the moment. So usually maybe 1 or 2 people are not available. But it's like it's a dedicated show about life in the Czech Republic, and all the material is about that. You know, and it's something that I think will work for a couple of years, and then enough people will have seen it where it won't be viable. So, but it's, you know, and maybe after that I'll try to think of something else. Like, I'd like to do a back to school special, because I wrote a lot of material about being a teacher and how I hate my job, which I don't, in case any of my employers are listening. I love my job. You know, I'd like to do an education special at some point. I'd like to do a relationship and love special, either from the single side or the in a relationship side. You know, and I think these are kind of things that people identify with as well.
Yeah.
But the Checkmate show, it's great because it doesn't matter how old or young you are. You know, like sometimes a comedian will talk about stuff in their life. So if you're like more than 10 years older or younger, you might not connect with it. But if you live in Prague, you'll connect with everything in that show. Where it doesn't matter if you're 18 or 80. You know, if you've been here for at least a year, you know, and that's a great thing. Like, you can reach so many people with one common denominator.
Yeah, which is humor.
Yeah.
In the end, right? Does it feel good? I mean, do you think about it? That you're making people happy?
Yeah.
Are you having this thought? Or is it more of a like, I need to take this out of myself? And
It can be both. Yeah, it is cathartic to let it out. You know, especially like if you go through a breakup, 10-15 minutes on stage is a great way just to let some frustration out. I won't go into more details on that, but it's kind of a personal issue at the moment. But yeah, it's a good way to let things out. It's also, and it's a bit egotistical, but like when you have a room of people laughing at something you said, it's amazing.
It feels good.
It does. And again, a bit egotistical, but when people come up to you after the show and like, oh, that was fantastic, that was great, it's, you know, it is nice, and it's nice to know that you can make people laugh like that. I mean, there's another Italian guy here, Carmina. He's the MC for the Checkmate show.
I think I know him. He's doing accents and voices and stuff, right? I think I've seen him at Christina at one point.
You probably did, yeah. He did a lot of online comedy shows weekly during the lockdown.
No. It was way before lockdown.
Okay. But you know, that he was doing that during the lockdown was great to bring humor to people when they are stuck at home. Mm-hmm. You know, or, I mean, it's been a rough couple of years.
It has.
I mean, of course, there are a lot of worse places in the world to be, but
of course.
It's been a tough couple of years. Yeah. You know, and if you can do something like that puts a smile on people's face, like the London Underground shows on Fridays, I love that atmosphere. And it's a different atmosphere to a show on a Tuesday or Wednesday because people still have work the next day. Friday show, people, they want to let off steam. They're ready for a good night. They'll probably have a couple of beers more than they would midweek. They don't have to work the next day, and they're ready to be entertained. And it's always like a bit louder. They laugh a bit more, and it's because you're all there together. You all want to let off steam. You've all whatever shitty things you've had to deal with during the week. Getting up early. It's also great in the winter. When it's cold, you can get in somewhere warm, hang out with people. It's humor comedy. It's a great way of bringing people together. And when I was in Dublin, there was a lot of great comedians in Dublin, not just as comedians, but as people. But there was a lot of backstabbing. And I didn't like that. And the scene here generally is very together.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I think, and there have been a couple of issues here and there with comedians, including myself and others. But generally the scene is very strong like that.
Yeah. I would totally agree. And it's something that actually also David Arnoson, the baker from Arctic Bakehouse, told me in the episode. Jose told me the same, and so on. And that the Petrica, our first episode. Hello, One Love Tattoo and Petrica, we love you. She also said that, for example, somebody comes into the shop and she can recommend somebody that would do the design better. She would, and so on. Which is, for me, maybe I'll get hate for saying this, but for me. My culture, let's say it like that, is totally opposite. I mean, we would not necessarily be the first ones to share or to recommend or to,
Okay.
And I now see the empowerment that it brings to everybody else if everybody's just friends with everybody, and it's basically there's enough room under the sun for all stand-up comedians, for all tattoo artists, for all podcasters. Yeah. So yeah, and it's so wonderful to actually be part of a community like this, because then that friendship or that common sense that you have, it brings both of the persons up to somehow. That's the foundation of learning. That's the foundation of developing yourself and so on, of growing in.
Yeah, and that it's a great sport with each other, and people. You get feedback off these people, you give them feedback, you help make each other better. And I think as comedians get better, you want to get better. But without having a rivalry, we're all kind of encouraging ourselves to get better with everything like that. And it brings people closer together. And therefore, it makes better shows, better experiences for the audience. You get also the scenes in Wrocław in Poland, in Berlin, in Bratislava, in Vienna, and you get comedians traveling within those cities as well. You get to meet new people, you meet them here, you have a contact in those cities, you get to travel to those cities and do comedy as well.
Where have you done comedy outside Dublin and Prague? Have you...
I've done Munich a few times, Bratislava a few times, Vienna once, Brno a few times, Olomouc once.
Olomouc even?
Yeah, the comedian Joanna Seo, she runs the show there. Fantastic show, actually. A lot of fun. Very nice venue as well. Haven't been up to Berlin yet. Always keep planning to go there and try to do some comedy. Haven't yet. But most cities, I think even Graz in Austria, there's a guy there, Jack Holmes. I think he's doing...
I know Jack Holmes. Yeah. I've seen him in Prague. I've seen him in Velvet Underground.
Yeah, he comes here, and I keep meaning to reach out to him. And
super funny guy, Jack Holmes.
He is. He's very, very good. Or another guy, American guy based in Bratislava, Alan Henderson. He was on the show I did last night. Very, very funny guy as well.
On Inquisition?
Sorry, it was one of Christine's shows. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you get to meet these people, and then you can call them up and say, listen, before sometimes you try to get into a comedy club and it's like, well, we'll give you 7 minutes, and it's like, I want to travel all that way for 7 minutes, but I can, they'll say to them, can you give me a set? And it's like, yeah, we'll give you 20 minutes because they've seen me in Prague, and that we start seeing each other, so we know how good we are, and that's fantastic. And there are a lot of comedians in Prague who do travel quite a lot. I don't because of work. It's not easy to take time off when you've got 3 months holidays.
Yeah,
you can't be taking Wednesdays and Tuesdays off every second week to go do comedy. And generally comedy nights are during the week. But I managed to get Wrocław in a couple of times. The guy there, Derek Caribou, he's an American guy. He set up the scene there. Very vibrant scene there, which is a lot. That's a lot of fun as well. Wrocław is a great gig to do. It's fantastic to see. You know, it's almost like, I mean, what I did here with Comedy Prague, he did there. You know, you've got the people who are doing it in Bratislava, like Alan, or there's another guy, Mitch and Oscar, American and Irish guys. You know, people doing it all over Europe now. And again, like when I was first here, comedy wasn't such a big thing with Czechs. And I think the Czech language scene has grown. And as the level of English, like in the 10 years I've been here, the level of English has got a lot better. So let's say local people, the Czechs, they're not just going to see Czech comedians anymore. They're going to see comedy shows in English, and they get to see comedians from all over the world who are either based here or visiting.
I've seen Bill Burr.
Yeah.
And I think Louis C.K. came before he came. I think, no?
Yeah, he was here,
He was here.
Bill Bailey's been here, Dylan Moran, Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr has been here as well, yeah. So not only you guys build the scene slowly, but also these big names coming in. It's definitely now it's buzzing. I mean, I listened to Joe Rogan podcast, and it seems that Joe Rogan wants to move, you know, like the whole scene from California to Austin. Okay. For some reason, Austin seems to be the place to be in the U.S., even if it's in Texas. But yeah, and he's got kind of the same story. I mean, let's build a community. We will open places where we can go there for once a week, and then we can go there like twice a week, and blah blah. And you know, he's talking about having the objection, but there's not enough people to come to all these shows, and it's actually somehow anti. How would you say it? It's anti, whatever, I can't. You would think it's not like that. You think the more shows you have, the less people will come because let's say the audience is the same, but it's definitely not like that.
No, it grows. And word of mouth as well. You know, people start telling people as well.
Counterintuitive was what I was looking for.
I don't like social media so much, but it does help as well. I mean, when I started in 2004, the gigs were listed in some of the entertainment magazines in Dublin.
You can keep going. I'm just going to open the door.
Okay.
It's a little bit hot. No?
It is very warm. Yeah, they would... you'd have it listed in magazines, and then you would be standing out in the street handing out flyers to passers-by to let them know about the show. Now, you don't need... which is horrible. You know, when you're trying to get your set right in your head, and it's your turn to be out in the street for half an hour, and you're trying to give flyers to people, it's terrible. So at least like now everything can go on Facebook or Instagram. You know, it's a lot better. You get a much wider reach from your sofa without having and save on printing costs. And then because you would even have to walk the streets in the local area for 5 minutes before the show to pick up any that the people threw on the ground, because otherwise the show would get done for littering. And that's actually happened to some Dublin shows. They've been fined like a couple of £100 for littering because their flyer is the one that's on the street. So, but it gets, you know, these changes happen and it gets better. You get more people.
Before I open the door and you lost the train of thought, I'm gonna first of all try something new. Respectively, parts of this podcast will be filmed with a selfie. But yeah. So look. So you were saying that actually the 10 years we've experienced Prague, it changed dramatically. You were just saying that 10 years ago people were reluctant not to speak. How?
Yeah. You know, the level of English wasn't so good, or they weren't so confident about it. Even though actually, if they did actually speak English, it turns out that they would speak English very well. You know, maybe it's also like it's a confidence or they don't have belief. I mean, even I remember even 9, 10 years ago, there were still dishes on the vegetarian menu that had ham in it. You know, I'm not
Is
joking.
this a joke?
No, I do use it in the Checkmate show, but it's it is actually true. There, in certain kind of bars, like the kind of bars that smell like they're still using the same grease from the 1970s to cook their food in. They, I've seen like ham and eggs omelette in the vegetarian section. And it's almost like, well, it's not beef, so fuck it, it's close enough to vegetarian. I have, you don't see that so much anymore, or I'm sure there's like, or maybe I just don't go to those places anymore. I'm sure there's a few of them still around. And I mean, I know this is before I came here, and maybe just around the time I came here in certain parts of the city, there would be two menus, one in English, one in Czech, and the prices would be different. The Czech menus would be a little bit cheaper than the English menus because they thought, okay, well, they're tourists coming with their euros or whatever. We'll screw them for a little bit more money. And
used to be more tourist traps.
Yeah.
No, now with the help of Honest Guide, maybe. Do you watch that thing?
I do sometimes. They've been great actually, because that's like a few years ago. I was chatting to my friend's mother, and she and her husband had been in Prague on a holiday, and she was like, we had a wonderful weekend, and she said on the metro, on going to the airport on the way home, her purse was taken out of her handbag, so she got like robbed. She got pickpocketed, and she was like, as much as it was a wonderful trip, to end, you don't want to hear that happening to people in such a great city. That one single bad thing like that, and it colors their opinion negatively. It's like, oh well, Prague was great, but I got pickpocketed, I got robbed. And it is nice to see, the scams with the guys at when you take money out and they try to exchange money for you, and they'll give you, I don't know,
500 levas, because they're Bulgarian, which is like not 500 crowns, it's like 10 crowns. And you're like,
and so
they're not Bulgarian.
Or I mean, I know the Honest Guy did this a lot. The money exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
The ones
they would say no commission.
They are criminal, or they're just absolutely criminal. So it is good to see that. Or actually, even now, like walking down Wenceslas Square, Old Town Square, all the signs out of all these places that used to capture all the tourists, saying now, like, we have beer for 45 crowns instead of 96 crowns or 112 crowns, which it would have been pre-COVID. And you're like, 100 crowns for this beer? You go right around the corner and you can buy the exact same beer for 45 crowns.
Yeah.
It's so I don't like screwing a tourist like that. Prague is a great place. You want people to have a good time here and go away with a good opinion of it.
Yep.
And maybe not so many tourists. It's crazy in the summer. It really is.
Yeah. But as we were saying over the beer, it's so nice to see the city with not so many tourists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful. I started actually during the lockdown. I started to kind of walk daily, and I made a point to walk in different areas. So, like for example, one day I walk in Vinohrady, one day I walk in Žižkov, one day I walk in Hrubočepi. Never walk in Hrubočepi. But and it's wonderful, and I tend to look at the buildings more, to enjoy more the architecture, because blah blah blah. And the pre-COVID era, I kind of, let's say, for example, I was taking the metro to museum and then walk home to Narinichida, but I was not enjoying it. It was more like a slalom.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
wonderful now. Now is the time to visit Prague.
Yeah. I was down Wenceslas Square earlier in the week, and I worked as a tour guide in 2012 for one summer. And you're trying to move a group of 30 people with all these other competing groups and all the tour
for that job.
You
had to learn that 4-page script and never go.
Yeah.
Did you make money like that? Because there was when I applied for it, there was no basic. It was just on
tips.
Yeah.
I made some money out of it,
but
not as much as some of the other guides.
Okay.
And I just found using the same script day after day repetitive.
Yeah. Well, no way.
It's and some of the other guys thrived off it and could really bring it to life, and I couldn't seem to do that in the way I can do it with comedy material, because I don't know.
Because defenestration is not funny.
It just wasn't for me. Like it's because it was a very, like, everything you learn is very interesting, and you know, if you haven't been to Prague, it is one of the most interesting cities. Whether it's like actual history or mythology and legend, it's amazing. You know, it really, like, the stuff you will find out about the city is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I know more about Prague than I do about Dublin, to be honest.
Yeah.
About the history of Prague.
Really?
Yeah. It's and I know that's terrible as an Irish guy, but
No, really, why?
It's so interesting here.
Stupid question, why?
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I sometimes consider myself a Pražák because it's. I mean, I'm 40, right?
Yeah.
30 years in Romania, 10 years here. It's a quarter of my life.
Yeah. I've been here a quarter. It's a long time.
That's a long time. No?
Significant.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not like 100% Praguese, but I mean, the city definitely influenced me in many ways.
Well, I know sometimes talking to Czechs, I will know better how to get around the city than they will. Because I walk around a lot, I go running around, I know the city very, very well. When I first came here, I would just spend Saturdays hopping randomly on metros and trams just to explore all the different parts, like Hlubočepi, never go back. I remember the first time I ended up in Palmovka, I was like, what the fuck is happening here?
I worked in Palmovka for 2 years, man. The winters were horrible because it's dark at 5. There's hookers on the streets at 7 in Palmovka.
I felt like there was a time difference and I gone back 25 years. I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, even that's starting to gentrify now.
Yeah.
And you were saying earlier about Caerleon, like, that's something else now compared to 10, 15 years ago.
We actually, in the last 10 years we've been here, we've seen parts of the city transform drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically. I mean, Žižkov, I don't want to be and probably I shouldn't even start it with that because somebody now will be upset. But when I moved here, there were like Russians and black people in Žižkov. Now Žižkov is this upper corporate kind of young people buzzing hipsterish kind of thing with bars one next to each other. It's totally different.
It is, yeah.
Maybe we should cut that part with black people and Russians. And besides that, what we were saying, Žižkov and Caerleon. Caerleon again. When I moved in 2010, but I first visited, I think, in 2004 or 5. They had like huge floods. I visited immediately after the floods, and in Staromiecka you can still see the level of where Vltava was because the walls of the buildings, the facade, were like muddy or dirty.
Yeah.
You know, like it was huge, and that's when I found out later. Prague people told me that like Caerleon was, because it's a little bit low. As opposed to Žižkov, for example, or so on, it was like almost fully flooded. So Caerleon was flooded.
Yeah.
And it seems that kind of then the locals kind of started moving out. And 2010, it was still kind of a poor neighborhood, Caerleon. And now again, it's like there's corporate people there, like there's a lot of businesses there.
Yeah.
Invalidov now, which is like the next station, it's also like they have a business center there. So it's wonderful to see how the city is, they build and build and build, and they build in good taste. And then basically the neighborhood just completely changes.
I drove out actually, like, past Caerleon and Valadovna, heading out towards Purny Most about 2 months ago for the first time in 2 years. And it was like barely recognizable. The whole skyline, as you're heading out towards Palmovka, it's all offices now.
Yeah,
it's just crazy the amount of development that's going on there.
Yeah, and I think Holešovice is more or less the same. In Holešovice, right next to the metro station, they have this visionary building and visionary complex and so on. And there's going to be like 4 big buildings. One is already built. I mean, the city is thriving. The city is thriving.
Yeah. The one thing I would say, in case the mayor of Prague is listening,
he is actually our 99th subscriber.
Woohoo! Or anyone from the Prague city government is listening. Of course, development will happen. It has to happen. But one of the best things about this city is all the parks. Whether there's small parts, big parts, there is so much green space in this city. Don't let that change. For the sake of development, which has to happen, don't let the park suffer.
But do you have an example of this happening? Because
No, but it's always a fear that money is that buildings earn more money than trees.
that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, trees don't really earn money. But
I think I might be wrong, but I think there's a European law that says that you cannot build in what is a park, considered a park, unless you make that park repurpose the land and blah blah. And I think that's almost impossible. But this is a problem in some of the parts in Romania where big money people would be able to just buy a piece of a beach or something like that, you know? Like,
well, I mean, if you look at Regro Visati, which is an amazing park with a super beer garden, that would be prime real estate. It's right in Prague too. It's very close to Wenceslas Square, to the main train station. You would make a fortune building flats on that, and they would sell in no time.
And the view you would have from the top of Rigrovi towards the castle, it's
unbelievable.
Fucking hell, man.
But it's a park now, and the view from that is amazing. That should never, like, I just hope that stuff like that doesn't happen. And I was back in Ireland in June for my dad's 80th birthday for the first time.
Happy returns,
It was great to see him after all that. First time in a year and a half to see him and my sister Claire. You know, and he's pointing out like development. Dublin is just growing exponentially out. And also in Dublin, they don't like going up. I think it's about time to, you know,
think about
you're going to have to start thinking of going up. Otherwise, you know, people are going to be traveling 3 hours to get to work. They'll have to live so far away, and the house prices are crazy. And
why is it? I'm looking at the time. I'm enjoying the conversation, but I think we still have 15 minutes. We'll see.
No.
Why do you think Dublin is growing? Is it because of the
Irish Catholics not using condoms and having too many babies?
Oh, really? I thought you would say that it's businesses coming in to get the tax benefits and all that shit that Apple is getting. Or
no, I mean, historically, Ireland has a tradition, being a Catholic country, not using contraception, 7-8 kids. But now you are right. A lot of like Google, Facebook, Apple, a lot of the big tech, LinkedIn, they all have offices in Dublin because of the 12% corporate tax rate. And I mean, Apple was ordered to pay 13 billion to Ireland, and Ireland's like, oh, don't worry about it. I was like, for fuck's sake, we were in recession.
Yeah.
You paid out the banks in 2008-9 to save the banking instead of letting it collapse and letting them learn. But you won't take 13 billion from Apple, who are making an absolute fortune.
Yeah. How did that? Is that thing under investigation?
I know. Well, I know the European, why they won't take it. Probably is. I think the EU are not so happy about that.
Definitely not.
And I don't think they like Ireland. Ireland have punched above their weight a lot with the European Union. We've benefited massively from it as, let's say, one of the smaller countries of the bloc. We have historically and you know, like the 70s and 80s, we joined in 73. That made a huge difference to Ireland. There was an appalling recession in the 1980s, and then recovery in the 90s and the Celtic Tiger. A lot of that came from EU money. And Ireland have been very good at kind of still getting their way, and maybe like, you know, certain treaties and getting the wording changed to suit Irish law. But, you know, you have to give something back. Ireland is not this poor little country anymore. You know, Ireland is one of the... probably has again one of the strongest economies in the world. It's also one of the most expensive cities in the world. You know, you got to play ball with the EU in the way that they supported.
Let's put this into context, because I'm curious. You know, if I fail in Prague, maybe I'll move somewhere else. So, what would the rent be in Dublin?
Jeez, I don't know. You'd be looking €1,000
for center kind of thing, or.
No. It's very expensive.
It is.
Yeah, you'd be looking for, it could be €1,000, it could be 2,000. I'm not sure. You might, or maybe.
What's the minimum wage then?
Minimum wage in Ireland, I think, is nowadays could be up to €14-15 an hour. Maybe it's lower. Maybe it's 10 or 12. I'm not 100% sure. But then, like.
So with an office job, do you expect to get, I don't know, 2K, 2.5K?
Take home
With an average office job.
I think the average salary is about 27 to 32,000 euro a year. I think that's before tax.
Okay.
So you might be, if you're lucky, you could be looking at 2,000 in your pocket a month.
Mm-hmm.
And chances are you'd be, if
Paying
you were
half
lucky,
for rent.
6, 7, 800, it could be for rent, plus bills, which are expensive. You know, and then you got to pay for your phone tariff, and then you got to pay for your public transport, which is very expensive in Ireland compared to here. It's an expensive place to live,
So
not comfortably. I mean, you know, there are people that struggle, people with decent jobs, if they had, or you know, it can be difficult. And then there are people who have very good salaries and earn good money, but it's an unenjoyably expensive country.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
how much for a beer? It's easier.
€5.
Really?
Yeah, 5, and that's in the suburbs.
Okay.
€6, €7 in the centre. A lot of that is tax. And I mean, like, one thing about the Czech Republic, comes from Czechoslovakia, I think, is no matter where you are in society, you can still afford to go out at least a couple of nights and have a couple of beers. Now, it might be a shitty little pub in the suburbs compared to somewhere in the centre, but pretty much everyone in this country can afford at least to get out once or twice a week for a couple of beers with their friends, or maybe buy a pack of cigarettes or eat out. That's within reach of most people in this country, I would say.
I agree.
And I think
Just to put it in context for people that don't live in Prague, there are still bars which are not far away from the center where you could get a beer with 30 crowns, 35 crowns, which is €1.10, €1.20.
Yeah.
The average place would be
I'd say 40 to 45 is about average
below
now.
€2. So you can definitely, I mean, you're getting 3-4 beers for the price of one beer in Dublin, in the center.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know there's a little bar called Privny Pivny Tramvay?
No.
It's at the end of tram number 11, close to Chodov. And on the outside, it looks like a dive. Chodov. It looks like a dive bar. And when you go in, actually, the furniture is old, but it's very, very clean. They've very nice beers on tap. They've different craft beers. But they kind of like the basic 10-degree beer, the light beer, is 30 crowns. That's like 6 tram stops from where I live. You know, that's 30 crowns for a beer. You know, I could get smashed on 1 hour's pay. You know, absolutely trashed. And then go right out the door, and you're at the tram stop, and to take me to 6 stops back home.
And the public transportation is non-stop.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, and it's so easy. I think like the metro is great; it's faster. But if you learn the trams, if you learn the trams in Prague, you can get around the city.
Totally prams. The trams in Prague are prams. Yeah. You're right. And for me, it was when I moved here, it was one thing of, you know, I tried to learn at least the main boulevards or roads or streets and by the name and so on. For example, like one little hack I got from there is that the lower part of Vinogrady, it's all like nations, because you have Rumunska, Yugoslavska, Londinska, Parizhska. No, Parizhska is in the
Central.
Yeah. Argentinska is there, I think, and so on.
Yeah, I live on Rumunska actually. Yeah,
you do?
I love all the different names around that area. It's fantastic.
There's Beckett's pub is right there, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's very good.
And Einstein pizza place I like.
Oh, I love Einstein. Yeah, I can see Einstein from my balcony. It's like it's tempting. Yeah.
Yeah. So
a lot of good places in that area. Really, really nice. Dish Burger is very good. Kravin is. I love the food in Kravin.
I don't know Kravin.
It's just on the corner of Nemesti Miru Square.
Okay, I know. Yeah.
Their hot dog is fantastic.
Okay.
You know, and then if you're sitting outside in Kravin and you're looking at
it's the one on the corner.
Yeah, and you can see the church, and it's a beautiful view.
Yeah.
You know, it's I've in the last 3 places I have lived, they are all about 400 meters from each other. In that triangle, in that little area of streets, all behind to the side of the Nemesti Miru going towards Nuzelski Skadi or Havlichko Visadi. So I love that area.
We're neighbors, basically. I mean, I think it's like a 15-minute walk.
So you're down close to Northern Nitrida,
Yeah.
That's a very short walk. I mean, Prague is so easy to get around.
It is easy. I mean, at least if you don't go to Chodov and Hlubo fucking Chepi. But yeah, it is super. I mean, at least from where we are, let's say, you can walk to Žižkov, you can walk to Karlin, you can walk to Smíchov.
Yeah.
Smíchov is a nice neighborhood. I'm now recently located with the office in Smíchov, and I interviewed Krag. I interviewed Craig Casebeer, the American barber in Prague, and he has his barber shop in Smíchov as well. And like this, I got to kind of walk around, and it's lovely. I mean, I thought about it as, you know, like when I moved to Prague, it was like that horrible railway station on the yellow line, Smíchovské, whatever, and well, the beer factory is there, the Staropramen, yeah. So, you know, no connection there. But if you start actually walking and look at the buildings and so on, it's wonderful even there.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's and then you have Vyšehrad.
Vyšehrad is beautiful.
And then you have that fucking Naplavka on Rašinovo. It's just.
I don't think I've been down to Naplavka this summer.
You haven't?
No, I was there a lot last summer.
They've redone part of the embankment, or how it's called, part of the wall.
I saw, with all the big circular windows that now turning it out.
And one of them is like an exhibition space, so there's always art there, which kind of looks nice during the night.
Yeah.
And then it's the same kind of buzz. But walking around on Naplavka, I just see young people now. I'm not really sure what happened to the normal target, but it's not really there anymore.
Yeah, I should go check it out, but I know what you mean. If it's all like young people, when you're like,
young people,
turning into my dad now.
Exactly.
Too many young people here. Where's the beer garden for old people?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the beer garden for old people?
Well, Vyšehrad is a great beer garden.
Yeah,
I love that beer garden. Great view.
The view is amazing.
They could put in far more tables, and I'm glad they don't. You know, there's still empty space there.
There's a huge empty space.
Yeah, and I'm glad they don't. I'm glad they are okay with, like, this is the right amount of people, so you don't have to queue too long. You know, it is a pain when you got to queue for 20 minutes to get a beer, and then everyone starts buying 4 beers, and then the queue takes ages. I like the way they haven't overpacked it, and I think the Žižkov Beer Garden is great fun, but maybe can be a little slow sometimes. Regrovy Beer Garden is generally very good. I haven't been there in ages either.
Yeah. Do you know that bar with the Puma? The Puma bar. How is it called? I don't remember.
I think it's
Anyway, there's a fucking bar with the Puma.
Yeah, I haven't been there in ages. And actually, sometimes the Pumas are actually walking around inside the bar. You could actually have a big cat walking right by you as you're drinking beer. It's crazy.
Do you know Zvorkovna or Zvorkovna? It used to be on Bartolomejska, so in Národní Třída, and now it moved just across the street from Národní Divadlo, and it's this kind of, you go down, you have to pay at the entrance. There's this system where it's cashless. Okay. So they charge a card for you, your amount is on the card, and you pay like that, which actually is not necessarily a very bad idea, because the service level is good.
Okay.
You know, so because you're just, you know, there's no, give me change, I want to pay by card, no, here's your change, you cash, blah, blah. So, and the beer is kind of okay. They have this huge fucking schnauzer, the dog.
Okay.
It used to be 2, and it used to be like, I think one of them died. There's only one of them, but I'm saying this because I'm autistic, because you just told me the Puma. I've only seen the Puma walking around on those rails, never between people.
One time they actually, I think it was a younger one. Like it wasn't fully grown.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if they had the fully grown one wandering around. I'd be a bit more nervous about that. I mean, at least like you're looking at a baby puma, it's like I could probably take that in a fight. I might get scratched a bit, but I could take that. The big puma, I'd be scared, and that can probably run faster than me. You know, or at least if I can run faster than someone else in the bar, I'd be okay, so I wouldn't get eaten. But yeah, there's a lot of weird and wonderful stuff. I mean, even as I know it's a chain and it's just across Europe, but pubs called The Pub. and you pour your own beers at the table, and
you have this contest with the
which is a lot of fun and does encourage binge drinking. You know, when you're trying to be the best table in your pub out of all the pubs in Prague, and then there's always some table in Berlin, and they must have been drinking since 8 o'clock in the morning because they are just at 180 liters or something like that. You know, it's just crazy consumption. But it's a bit gimmicky, and it's marked from a marketing point of view, but it's very enjoyable. You can even order songs for the jukebox on the thing as well. No, Prague is good for pubs. I miss Dublin pubs sometimes. Atmosphere there is very good, but Prague does have its fair share.
On your way over here, you were telling me one thing about Dublin pubs, which I was not aware of.
People stand, yeah. And, some pubs here, you might get people standing, or more clubby pubs, but typical Czech pubs, everyone sits down. And I remember trying to order at a Czech pub at the bar, and they're like, no, you must be sitting. It's like, I just want one beer and then to go. No, you must sit and you must open a tap. In Ireland, every available space on the floor, whether it's seats or standing, will be filled up. There's a pub in Dublin, the Stag's Head. It's a little bit narrow. There's some tables, and then everyone else stands. If you're at one end and the toilet's another, it can be a nightmare trying to get down there. And as I was telling you earlier, you're kind of bumping into people. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, no, don't worry. And people mix more. And that's one thing I do miss. People mix more. You get talking to more people that way. You don't get drunk as quickly because you're standing and burning energy and not just sitting and having 3 beers and suddenly stand up and say, whoa. People do get to mix more. And that's a nice thing to see. Maybe once we're okay with COVID. But and it's kind of more fluid. Also if you want to, if you're standing at a table, but you're still standing and people are standing at that table, if you want to chat up some girl, you're more likely to make conversation in that situation than going over to a group of people who are sitting, stand over them into their personal space and say, hello, can I ask you? No, get away from me. But when you're on the same level, it's very good. It's a very good way of mixing and meeting with people. And when you're watching a big sporting event, and like Ireland playing rugby or and the whole pub is packed, and you can't, you might be missing a quarter of the screen because the guy in front of you is taller, and everyone is just staring and all packed in. And when Ireland score, or like in the football in like the 2002 World Cup, and everyone erupts and there's beer flying everywhere, that's magical. That is a fantastic, a fantastic way to...
Having been consistently, before I moved to Prague, in the stands for my local team at home, I do agree that moment, it's such a happiness that I kind of attribute it to that place. I can only have that type of happiness there.
Couple of times, like James Joyce...
Hello guys, I'm really so sorry. I'm bothering you, but it's...
Yeah, you are, but let me then turn the camera towards you so people would see you.
Hello.
So we are in the Magenta Experience Center. They are about to close. Thank you for letting us know. And, thanks for coming. It was lovely. We had such an amazing flow. I wish we could have 2 more hours, but we couldn't start the camera. But anyway, it was because I was, doing something wrong. Anyway, so, look. Let me think what I should do now. Yes. This has been Luke Ryan. We're gonna do the last question after the shoutouts. This has been Luke Ryan. You can follow him on.
You can find me on Instagram for Inquisition Podcast. Same Inquisition Pod on Twitter, and
follow that.
And also on Facebook, Inquisition Podcast, or Comedy Prague on Instagram and on Facebook to find out when all our shows are coming up.
This has been 19 to the dozen, episode 16. Episode 16. That has been 19 to the dozen, episode 16. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe. Last question I ask everybody. If you can snap your fingers, Luke, and change something about the world today, what would it be?
Oh my God, I would like to see...
you can take your time. We don't really have to.
I would like to see less populism in governments, and would encourage kind of more closed borders I don't think it's not nice to see that. I'd like to see the world to open up more. Maybe Schengen the world, Schengen the world, and
Schengen the world.
just have more respect and love for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's a short life in the end.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome,
I
thank
really
you very much.
enjoyed it, and we should do this again. We should, yeah. We should do this again.
Cool. I'd be up for that.